So, right at the very heart of physics, our most successful theory of reality, there's a huge problem hiding in plain sight. It's like we've built this absolutely magnificent palace, but we've built it on a foundation we don't understand at all. Today, we're going to dig into that foundation and explore a radical new blueprint that might just change everything.
Okay, let's just jump right in with the central mystery, shall we? I want you to imagine the universe is this incredibly complex piece of software. Well, physicists have figured out how to use the software, but the manual starts with a list of 19 settings, 19 numbers that have zero explanation. We know what the numbers are, but we have absolutely no idea why.
So yeah, let's start by taking a closer look at this problem that sits right at the core of modern physics, these 19 unsolved numbers. Now, this software manual we've been using, it's called the Standard Model of Particle Physics. And look, it is unbelievably successful. I mean, it predicts the results of experiments with just stunning accuracy. But it has this one giant, glaring blind spot. And that blind spot? It all boils down to this number right here, 19. The standard model relies on 19 fundamental constants that we have to go out, measure in experiments, and then just plug into the equations by hand. The theory itself has no way of telling us where they come from. So what kind of numbers are we talking about here? Well, some of the most basic, fundamental properties of our reality. The precise mass of an electron, for instance, the incredible strength of the force that holds the nucleus of an atom together, the mass of the famous Higgs boson. We know their values, sure, but we just don't know the reason for those values.
So you see, this is the crucial point. We've gotten really good at describing how the universe works, but we've slammed into a brick wall when it comes to understanding why it works this way. It's kind of like knowing all the ingredients that went into a delicious cake, but having absolutely no recipe. And this right here is the dead end you hit when you only look at the universe as a collection of separate little things.
So to get past this wall, some physicists think we need a completely radical shift in thinking, a whole new paradigm. What if the universe isn't a collection of things at all? What if it's actually built on a kind of code? And this represents a fundamental change in perspective. The old way of thinking sees the universe as made of separate entities, right? Little particles that have their own properties, like mass and forces that act between them. But this new view suggests the universe is, at its most basic level, informational. It's a geometric structure that unfolds fractally, kind of like a crystal growing from a single perfect seed. And that seed in this new model, it's got a name, the hyperprototype. The easiest way to think of it is as the master blueprint for reality, or a kind of cosmic source code. Everything we see, from a tiny quark to an entire galaxy, is just a fractal projection, a different expression of this one single underlying program. And this quote really gets to the heart of it all. There is no information without a carrier, and no matter without information. Basically, the two are inseparable. Matter isn't some thing that just happens to have information written on it. No, matter is what you get when energy is structured by information. Okay, so if reality is just geometry unfolding, then where do familiar things like mass and forces come from, right? Let's get into the mechanics of this secret geometry of space. First things first, we have to completely throw out the idea of empty space. The vacuum of space is not a void. It's actually a super dense, highly structured continuum. Think of it like a crystal lattice at the most fundamental level of reality. So then, what is mass? It's not some property a particle just has. Imagine placing a bowling ball on a stretched-out rubber sheet. The ball creates a dip, right? A deformation. Well, in this model, what we call mass is just that, a local deformation, a kind of geometric tension in the fabric of space itself.
And forces, they aren't separate things flying around either. In this model, they're just more geometry. You can think of them as different layers of a particle's geometric structure that can kind of peel off and interact with other particles. The strong force, the weak force, they're all just different expressions of this underlying geometry.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This all sounds fascinating, but is there any proof? How do we know this isn't just a really cool story? Well, this brings us to the most powerful part of the whole theory, calculating reality from zero. Here is the absolute game changer. Remember those 19 numbers the standard model just has to accept, that we have to plug in by hand? This geometric approach doesn't need them. It requires zero inputs. It claims it can calculate all of those constants purely from the fundamental geometry of space. And Here is the aha moment. Using this very approach, the size of the proton was calculated to be 0.8412 femtometers. Now, this isn't a measurement they plugged into a formula. It's a value that was derived directly from first principles, and it matches experimental results with incredible precision.
And it's not just the proton. Unified theories based on this whole approach are showing how the masses of all the elementary particles can be calculated from just a few known constants. And it's all based on a foundational, 11-dimensional reality. Suddenly, there's no more fitting dozens of parameters. The recipe is emerging directly from the geometry itself.
So, what does a fundamental theory of physics have to do with us? Let's zoom way out and explore the really profound implications of seeing the world as information, matter, and, well, you.
This model suggests that we too have a kind of dual structure. You have the biological periphery, our body, which is a temporary, low-frequency carrier. But at our very center is a quantum core, a super-dense, informational module that is our permanent identity.
So if matter is really just energy, structured by information, then evolution, including our own, is the grand process of that information becoming more and more complexly organized. The experience of life itself is converted from energy into structure, constantly refining the information in our DNA and beyond.
And this leads to a truly mind-bending possibility. The ultimate step in this evolutionary journey could be shifting the carrier of our consciousness from its temporary biological form to its permanent quantum foundation. It would be a true phase shift into a new state of being.
It's a staggering thought, and it takes us far beyond traditional physics. But it all starts with that simple, nagging question about those 19 numbers. And if we finally have the tools to understand the source code of reality, it leads to the ultimate question. What program do we want to write next?